Hello everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to my YouTube channel of Geo. This is Geography Optional channel. In this channel, I will try to cover all the geography related topics of paper 1 and paper 2. In the first lecture of this series, I have covered initial 4 principles of geomorphology given by W.D. Thornbury in his book Principles of Geomorphology, right? And those who are newcomers, myself Kuldeep, I appeared for 3 civil service interviews and currently I am pursuing my PhD from JNU. Okay, so those who want to cover the initial 4 principles, just go through the first lecture. Okay, let's start with the second lecture. So the 5th principle given by the W.D. Thornbury states that complexity in geomorphic evolution is more common than simplicity. Here are 3 key terms. One is complexity, second one is simplicity, and the third one is geomorphic evolution. So Thornbury wants to states that geomorphic evolution is more complex rather than simple. So we will try to cover it through 3 different coordinates and points. One is that how geomorphic evolution happened in different geological times, right? Second, what are the geomorphic processes behind that? And third one is there any role of cycle of erosion regarding that? Okay. So in 1952, there was one renowned geographer, Horvath. He gave 5-fold classification. We are using it to actually simplify the whole principle regarding that. So the first classification is simple landforms. Simple landforms are nothing but newly emerged landforms. For example, what can be the newly emerged landforms? We can take example of volcanoes. Volcanoes of either Hawaii, Merapi, Mayon region. So these are some of the examples of the new volcanic landforms which are erupted recently. There is no intervention by the different geomorphic processes on these landforms. So these are very localized and it is tough to find simple landforms on the Earth's surface. Second one is the compound landforms. So compound landforms are those landforms where the combined action of multiple geomorphic processes are visible. For example, in the glacial region, we can find 2 different such landforms. One is outwash plain and second one is drumlins. Outwash plain is also known as glaciofluvial landforms, means the combined action of water and glacier in there. Same is in case of drumlins. When we move towards the desert region, there are some landforms which are also emerged due to the combined action of the water and wind. Okay, so these are the bajadas and oases. So now it is very simple to understand compound landforms, means those landforms which has impact of different or multiple geomorphic processes. Now there are 3 other landforms which have impact of cycle of erosion. So the initial is monocyclic landforms. Monocyclic landforms, the word itself is defining it, means which have impact of only single cycle, and that can only happen only in the case of if it is emerged very recently, means it is recently developed topography. Okay, so as same as we took example of volcanic landforms in the simple landforms, similarly in the newly developed volcanoes, if there is water action, so action of the only single cycle, so that actually creates monocyclic landforms. Second type of landforms on the basis of cycle of erosion is exhumed or resurrected landforms. So exhumed or resurrected landforms are the landforms which were buried up either in the Precambrian era or in Pleistocene or somewhere in between, but now they are visible on the Earth's surface again. So there can be some textbook examples like glacial drift, alluvial deposits like Bhangar, which are already very below, we can see in the case of Gangetic Plain. Or the third case is transgressive marine sediments. For example, in Rajasthan, there is Akalwood sediment and fossil parks, which was earlier part of the marine sediment. So these are some of the exhumed or resurrected landforms. Let's make it simple. So whatever visible on the Earth's surface regarding the volcanic landforms are like cinder, cones, compound cones, Hawaiian, Strombolian volcanoes. Okay. But besides that, there are plutonic volcanic landforms also, which is, those have different types. For example, batholith, leucolith, lopolith, phacolith, sill and dike. And if they are emerged at the Earth's surface, these are also known as exhumed or resurrected landforms, right? So it is very clear that the landforms which are earlier buried up and now visible on the Earth's surface are known as exhumed or resurrected landforms. Now let's move to the next, which is polycyclic or multicyclic landforms. So these are the landforms which actually emerge through various kind of cycles, through various ages, through various kind of geological circles. Okay. So what can be the reasons behind these kind of polycyclic landforms? So I have listed 4 regions which are very important. The first one is dynamic regions involving uplift or subsidence of land. So these are very localized regions because the land upliftment mainly happens in the very local level. Second region which is very visible and globally visible, even after the global warming it is more visible, is eustatic changes or eustatic regions implying at the worldwide level either due to the dystrophism or glaciation or due to the global warming. So this is the second region. The third region is static regions. Static regions could be a reduction in the river load or any increase in the volume of the river. So if there is increase in the river load, it alters the rate of erosion, means it will actually increase the rate of erosion. And if there is reduction in the river load, then it actually decrease the rate of erosion. So different type of topographies can emerge within the river valley. Okay. Next and the last one is the climatic regions. Climatic regions like aridity and the glaciation. Now another part which we need to discuss is what are the instances or the examples of these kind of polycyclic landforms. So the first and very visible example is older alluvium terraces, which is known as Bhanga in India. So these are visible in the North Indian plains. Now how can we define that these are the polycyclic landforms? Earlier they used to be khadar. Khadar means new alluvium plain. But when river shifted its course, now the annual deposit of the alluvial sediments is not here. So that's why they become the older alluvium terraces and known as Bhanga. Okay. But suppose if again there is river shifting, for example, notorious rivers like Kosi, Damodar, Ramganga, if there is another shifting of the course, so there can be again deposition of the khadar or the new alluvium plain. So that actually creates the polycyclic landforms. Second example is from mountains. So mountains can be simply characterized in the form of ridges and valleys. So generally in Himalaya there are synclinal ridges and anticlinal valleys. But in the next successive cycle, maybe either due to the compressional force or the tensile force, there may be case that anticlinal ridges can be formed and synclinal valleys can be formed. So these are the continuous cycles which can create the polycyclic landforms on the surface of Earth. Third example is related to rejuvenated landforms. So here the region which we have discussed, eustatic regions as well as the static regions, are very important to understand rejuvenated landforms. For example, if there is rheostatic changes, means decrease in the sea level of a particular region, then the lengthening of river valley will be increased. There will be higher valley deepening as well as the valley widening. But if the case is reverse, means increase in the sea level, then there is case that shortening of the river valley will start and the valley floor, the height of valley floor will increase and the new kind of the landforms will emerge. These are these can be known as in valley topography, insight meander, as well as the nick points. Okay. The last stands for the example related to polyconical or polycyclic landforms. It's scarped erosional surface of different ages. For example, we can take example of the Western Ghats. Western Ghats were earlier not, their relief features or their relief level was not so immense, but due to the subsidence of the plate, especially nearby the Arabian Ocean, these are now relief features which have height nearby 1500 in Sayatri to around 2695 in Doda Beta or Nilgiri. So it actually shows that if there is impact of different kind of processes, it may be cyclic of erosion or geomorphic processes, then there can be case that polycyclic landforms can emerge. So is it very clear to you? Now let's move to the next concept. So the next concept is very interesting and I think you have heard about it. So this is the sixth concept. So it states that little of the Earth's topography is older than Tertiary and most of it is no older than Pleistocene. Means W.D.Thornbury through this principle want to state that most of the topography on the Earth is not older more than Pleistocene period. Now when we talk about the topography, it is not only the continental crystal topography but also the marine crystal topography, right? So let's start with the marine crystal topography. There is one theory given by Henry Hess which is known as seafloor spreading theory, and in that particular theory you can also see through the diagram that in that particular theory it was given that the oceanic crust actually produced at the mid-oceanic ridges and it either deformed, destruct or subduct in the trenches which are very nearby the continental margins. And if someone move from the continent, these oceanic ridges, mid-oceanic ridges, then the age of those particular landforms increase towards the trenches. So this actually showed that most of the topography of the oceans is not older than the Pleistocene. So this is one of the important examples regarding this principle. Now let's discuss about the continental crust. So in the continental crust also, there are actions of various geomorphic edges. For example, wind, sea wave, glacier, river valley. There may be case of the karst topography also. So that's why most of the land on the Earth's surface is also in dynamic in nature as well as not older than the Pleistocene period. Now what can be the exceptions then? So there are some exceptions which are very rigid land masses. So those rigid land masses are visible even in India and different parts of the world. For example, continental cratons, we can take example. So continental cratons like Indian Shield, second one is the Ethiopian Shield. There can be other examples like Canadian Shield, Siberian Shield. So these are some of the cratons which are visible worldwide, are not impacted very immensely by the geomorphic agent processes. So that's why the statement and the principle is important that little of the Earth's topography is older than. So these are some of the little topographies which is older than that. So now it is very clear for you that there are three different types. One is oceanic crystal landforms, second one is the continental crystal landforms which had impact of the geomorphic agents, and the third one is continental cratons. Right, let's move to the next concept. Okay, so this concept simply states that proper interpretation of the present day landscape is impossible without full appreciation of the manifold influences of geologic and climatic changes during the Pleistocene period. So here there are some key terms. One is geologic and climatic changes during the Pleistocene, and second, due to that, the interpretation of the present day landscape. So yes, it is very true that geography actually lies in the history of the landforms. Okay, so during the Pleistocene period, it was happened that Earth has experienced various kind of geological changes. particularly extremely climatic changes. So in that particularly extreme climatic change, the Earth's temperature was extremely cold, and it was actually moving from glacial phases to warm interglacial phases. And due to that, major part of the Earth was covered by the glaciers. You can see through the diagram that in the first diagram, 18,000 years before present, an immense part of the Earth is visible that it is glaciated, but now it is shrinked only in the very few parts of the world. Okay. So due to that, there are several features have been developed and which are visible currently in the different parts of the world, and their interpretation is only lie in the Pleistocene period. Okay, so let's start discussion one by one. So if we see the coastal formations, especially in the Scandinavian countries and the Canada, so we find that the coastal landforms are very broken, and those coasts are known as either Ria coast or fjord coast. Why these are called as Ria or fjord coast? Because earlier when Pleistocene period was there, glaciation was high, sea level was low. When sea level was low, so rivers actually transgress even through the continental slopes regions or continental regions, and river valley on the length of river valley actually increases. But after the completion of the glacial ages, now again these river valleys were drowned by the seawater itself. So these are currently known as Ria coast. Same example is with the drowned glaciated valleys, and those are known as fjord coast. Now there is one important interesting fact. I am teaching you these kind of concepts with the purpose of the geography optional, but you are well aware that in 2023, the same question regarding the fjord coast asked by UPSC in the GS1 paper. So that's why it is very important to understand every and each constituents of this theory and these principles, so you can not only use them in your geography optional paper, but they might be helped somewhere in your GS papers. Now let's discuss another examples regarding the proper interpretation of the present day. So river rejuvenation happened due to the earlier valley lengthening and then valley shortening. So what happened due to that? When river lengthening happened, so whatever the sediment load rivers have, it actually drained in the ocean, and less deposit happened on the bed of the river. Because when the river lengthening happens, so river starts valley deepening as well as the valley widening also. Okay, but when there is eustatic change again and sea level increases, so river valley shortening started, and then the bed of the river will become again high. So the young topography has emerged. Okay. So that's why river regeneration and young topography we are currently seeing is also impact of the Pleistocene period, whatever geologic and climatic changes happened during that time. The last examples are like glacier features, for example, drumlins and kettle. So earlier they were unselected or assumed features during the Pleistocene period because they are beneath the Earth's surface, but now they are visible. Okay, so that's why their origin lies somewhere in the Pleistocene period. One more important example is regarding that we have seen that Finland is known for country of lakes. Now in Rajasthan, most of the lakes have developed through the digging up process, but the same case is not with the Finland, because in Finland during the glaciation period or Pleistocene period, what happened? It was eroded by the glaciers or the glacial landforms, and when those glacial landforms were retreated back. So these are the hollow landforms filled with water becomes a lake of the particular region. So it is very interesting fact to know, and that's why Finland is known as country of the lakes. Same case is in with the Canada. So this is all for today. Thank you so much. Keep watching and keep understanding the basic concepts of the geography. Thank you.